right, we're going to get started today. Welcome to Heartland, to TIC 612 ELA Focus, and welcome to the people online as well. Our first presenter, she gets up here and gets started. Her name is Michelle Hukvari. Hukvari. She is a teacher librarian in the Southeast Polk districts. Jamie Fath had recommended her to be a presenter, and so when she sent her proposal. She's one of the ones that we chose. And those of you on Zoom, please make sure that you're looking at the Q&A and also posting any questions that you have across the bottom of the screen. And we'll be moderating that as the day goes on. So today, our agenda is up on the board. The Google URL right there is the link to the agenda that's also on your table. The hashtag is HAEATIC if you want to follow along or post anything on that hashtag. And then also at the bottom is just our next TIC session. So if you are using our Heartland Wi-Fi, the password is education. We will be taking a couple breaks between presenters. There's restrooms out the door and also a workroom out there if you need anything. So welcome, and hopefully you enjoy your day.
All right. Well, thanks, you guys. It's good to be here. I'm excited to talk with you a little bit about some of the things we've been able to do at Southeast Polk. Again, my name's Michelle Hukvari. I'm teacher librarian at Southeast Polk Junior High and High School, so I do have a split assignment. I would encourage you to come on into my presentation. I'm going to be showing you some different tech tools today, and from time to time give you a little bit of time to play around with those, and so that'll be easier to do if you jump on that short Google address right there, or if you have an iPad or something with a QR scanner on it, you could grab that. This is also linked in the agenda for today, so if you're looking at the agenda, you should be able to get into my presentation that way. And like I said, my goal today is just to give you some ideas for maybe some tech tools you might want to use in your classroom, as well as talk a little bit about what teacher librarians do and how we can help support you in your ELA rooms. All right. So first, just a little bit about me. This is me. Over on the left, I graduated from Iowa 2 different times. My first degree was in music back in 1990 something or other. And I started my career in education as a band director. And then I was out of education for a while, had some time to volunteer at my children's school and volunteered in the library, and I thought, this is it. This is what I want to do. Went back, got my master's at Iowa just a few years ago. I'm in my 3rd year at Southeast Polk right now. Not too surprisingly, I'm an avid reader. So there's a picture of me in my library. Actually, that was staged. I wasn't reading at the time. But one of the reasons I chose library as a field is I wanted to think, what's the way I can get to books and spend most of my time with books as much as possible. What I didn't know is that's not really what librarians do so much anymore. But that's actually awesome for me. I'm the type of person that likes to do something new every day, and my job lets me do that, which is great. And then this is me also on the left. This was believe it or not, I was teaching that day. It was Halloween, and I was posing as Dr. Victor Frankenstein. So we like to kind of mix it up sometimes. I will go to great lengths to get kids to read something, even if it means that there's embarrassing photo evidence after the fact. So I wanted to talk just a little bit, before we get into the technology aspect of things, I wanted to talk just a little bit about what teacher librarians do, because our role has changed a ton over the past several years. And depending on your school, you might have a teacher librarian that's in different parts of that change right now. So this graphic kind of cracks me up a little bit. These types of job descriptions were going around maybe a year or 2 ago. So what is it that people think we do when I say, oh yeah, I'm a librarian? So some people think I sit and read books all day. I wish that's what I did. I can justify my extensive reading habit because it's for school, but it never happens at school. There's never time. My parents no longer think I just do story time. That's kind of what I thought I was going to be doing when I started this librarian journey, but that's not really what I do. Society, what they think I do, I don't actually shush people, not even in my high school library when there's 40 kids in there and they're all talking and having fun, or in our junior high library when you have 2 classes at once. Library can be a productive, busy space, and that's awesome. I'm going to skip that next one. I'm sure you've all heard about that. But do I think I'm a superhero? Probably not. But I do really love my job. I am really excited about it. So what I actually do, what do teacher librarians actually do? We have three kind of main areas of focus. So the first thing is to promote literacy and lifelong readers. And if I can get students excited about books wherever those books show up, whether it's on their devices or whether it's physical paper books in their hands, then that is something that I would want to do and love to do. We instruct in information literacy. And that's a really important thing today. Research, information skills, there's so much information out there. How do we teach our students to use that? And then probably my favorite part of the job is we're supporting core instruction for staff and students. So I am there kind of as a safety net. I'm there as an extra pair of hands. I'm there as someone to bounce ideas off of, provide resources, tools, anything that people might need help with, I'm willing to give it a shot. Okay, so I wanted to show you just a few things we did that involve technology as far as promoting literacy. And those two things almost seem a little bit opposite, I guess, in a way. But technology is a great tool when I'm promoting literacy because especially for those kids who maybe by the time they've gotten to me in 7th or 8th grade, maybe they're kind of considering themselves non-readers. So if there's other ways I can engage them than just print text, and get them excited about reading, then that is something that I really want to do. So this is an example of an activity that we did. I did it with 8th graders last year. And our purpose with the activity is we were introducing students to a lot of books. We probably looked at 50 or 60 different titles related to a topic in their unit. And they were working on a unit called Power of Words, and their main focus was really bullying with that unit. And so we had all kinds of different bullying books for them to browse through. And so we set up 3 different stations for them to take a look. And so one was a cart full of actual books. One was a set of QR codes, and you can see that QR code up there. And then one was a Thinglink that they could browse through. And so students would rotate, divided the class into 3 parts. And so one group was sitting with the cart and taking books and browsing through them and kind of getting to know them and doing a little bit of reading to see if this was something they wanted to check out. Other students had iPads, and they were scanning 5 or 6 different QR codes. And if you've never used a QR code before, these are a great tool to use with kids. A QR code is just a link. It's just a graphic link to more information. So I set up a Google Doc with some information that I wanted my students to read about each book. They grab the iPad, scan it real quickly, and suddenly here's all this information. So if I had a summary for the book, I could show them that. If I had a book trailer, I could link it in that as well. And they had a really great time just scanning and reading. And just that act of getting up, moving around, moving from QR code to QR code engages some of those kids that maybe wouldn't want to just sit there with a book in front of them. Since we've done that QR code activity last year, we've done it a lot this year as well. We've used QR codes for library orientation. Again, it gets kids up and running. Instead of me talking at them for 20 or 30 minutes, they're spending their time finding out what they need to know about the library. We also use it in 7th grade, linked them to a document that had some textual evidence, and they had to do some work with that. So QR codes are a really fun tool to use. And they're actually pretty easy to put together. If you want to make a QR code, and I have this down here below, the technology tool we used to get set up with a QR code. Once you have either found a website that you like, or maybe you have a Google Doc that you like, you can just come out to the Google or goo.gl, the URL shortener. Okay? And so, for example, if I wanted to make a QR code for this presentation, I would just copy that link and then paste it in here. And now Google is giving me, or the Google shortener is giving me a shorter link, but if I click on details, there's my QR code right there. And so then I can just copy that. And what I usually do to keep track of my QR codes, I'll put them all in a Google Doc with a table, because if you're making several QR codes, they all look the same, right? You can't tell by looking at one which link this goes to, which book this goes to, which activity this goes to. So if you create a table in your Google Doc, put your QR code there, and then just a note in the next column to tell you yourself what that's about. You can do that, and then you can also enlarge them, print them from there, all that good stuff. The other thing I usually do, I don't usually use it from the website, although you can do that. I use it from the extension on my Chrome, which is right there. And that's even easier, because if I just click on that, it gives me QR code as one of my options. So it's really easy. You can do that from a Google Doc. You can do it from a website. You could do it from your Google slide presentation. And like I said, kids really, really like those, partly because they get up and get moving around. The other thing we did in that lesson, so we had, like I said, we had 3 stations. We had the actual books, we had the QR codes, and then we had a Thinglink. So the kids, my third group of kids would be going to a Thinglink, which is, there's pictured right there. A Thinglink, if you haven't used that before or seen that before, is an interactive image. And so I set this up. Each little dot has some sort of link to other information. And so if I want kids to know about these different books that deal with bullying, I have these different options for them to go to. And so Lions of Little Rock was one of the books we were looking at, and so I linked Kristen Levine's bio. There's a summary of the book. There's a book trailer for the book. Kids love book trailers. Your ELA teachers, you probably know that. But almost all of my kids, anytime I give them an activity like this where they can just kind of browse themselves, that's almost the first thing they go to. So to hear about a book from me is interesting, but to watch a little trailer about the book is probably their favorite thing to do. And to use Thinglink, it's actually super simple. You upload an image that you want to use, and then it lets you just add tags. And each tag, you go out and find what you might want to add to that. You just add a quick tag, and you're off and running. It's super easy. It's free for educators. There's teacher link for educators that you can use, and it's great. It's also really great to use as a presentation tool for your students. So if you're tired of them giving you a Google slide presentation over and over and over, you could have them work separately or in groups, show you what they know, show each other what they know by creating a Thinglink. And that is a fun thing for kids to do because they can choose an image that they want. They can spend some time curating their information, finding different links that they want to put in. So that's a lot of fun. One other thing you can do with Thinglink that is great is you can search it. So we've had teachers do that in our building. They'll have kids search for certain things. So for example, if you wanted to search for infographics about the Iowa Hawkeyes, like maybe knowing that they're 12-0 and they're going to the Big Ten championship next week, all those exciting things, here are all those options just with one quick search. And so now I can watch some videos. All right, the Hawks are my hero because they're clever, all those fun things. The Hawks are my hero because they are brave leaders. We need a little spell checking on that one, but still pretty cool that some kids put that together. And it's out there for all of us to use. Okay, the next activity that I wanted to show you for promoting literacy, we did at Valentine's Day. I like to try to do themes in the library when I can. Last year at Valentine's Day, we did a book match activity. Bookmatch.com is sort of like Match.com, and so that was fun. It was a way for kids to kind of find their book soulmate, actually their genre soulmate. And my purpose was to instruct and or review fiction genres, and I use this with 7th and 8th grade. So some kids were already familiar with what I mean by a genre. Some have never really thought about that before. So we talked about that a little bit, and I used Google slide presentation to kind of go through that really quickly. But I also put together a personality quiz. And so there's this tool called Poll Snack, and that's a screenshot of that up top, that lets you throw together a personality quiz. And so they come in and they answer questions, and then it matches them with a genre. And not surprisingly, kids really like that kind of thing. And we had a really fun time doing that. We had the library decorated. We had, for each genre of books, we had kind of a different area of the library set up. So once they got matched with their genre, they could go to that section and browse a little bit. And we would talk to them about, okay, so Match.com matches you up with someone based on your personality. This is going to do the same thing, but just like in your dating life, just because someone tells you who you have to, gives you a suggestion for a date, you don't have to take that suggestion, right? You still have free choice. So if you are a romance reader but you get matched up with sports, you can either choose to try something out of your comfort zone, or you can, stick with the kind of date you usually like to have. And then probably my favorite part, and I wish I would have thrown a photo, is we we did a photo booth after that. So after kids selected their book, then they came up and took a picture with their match in front of our Valentine's Day door. And we had like Incredible Hulk masks and feather boas, and the boys probably loved that even more than the girls, and it was really, really fun. So let me just kind of show you what that quiz looks like. So this was our presentation for that. As soon as that loads, there we go. Okay, so the kids would just go click on this. We had a bunch of computers already set up to that quiz. And you just go ahead and answer all of these questions. So however you like to spend your free time. I'm actually stacking the deck for a certain type of genre. See if you can figure out what it's going to be. Okay. See if I get it. My result was romance. But it was really fun to watch kids do that. And some kids took it 5 or 6 times so they could see if they could figure out which choices would go with which genre. So that was a lot of fun. So what I'd like to do right now is give you like maybe 3 minutes maybe to play around with either look at QR codes, look at Thinglink, or if you want to take that personality quiz and see which genre suits your personality. And then I'll take a few questions on that before we move on to the next section. All right, did anyone have any questions for me on the tools we've already kind of looked at? Yes?
What was the extension for the QR code? What was it called?
There's a lot of different QR code scanners or creators. The one to make the QR code, is that the one you're asking? It's goo.gl. Okay. Yep. We had a couple questions come up. goo.gl, and it is on this.
Okay, thank you.
It's right here on the presentation, right there. So you can go to that website, goo.gl. You can also, if you are a Chrome user, you can add the extension, and then it'll be right there on your browser bar. I had a question while we were all kind of talking together about what devices you can use the QR codes on, and you can pretty much use them on anything that has a camera. Okay, and so we've used them with iPads, we've used them with Chromebooks. There's a QR scanner or QR reader app or extension you can add on Chromebooks. We've also had kids bring their own devices and do it because you can download a QR reader really, really quickly, and they kind of like having their phone out for something. You know, that's kind of a win-win. They get to have their phone. We get to not yell at them for having their phone. So that's kind of good. Any other questions about QR codes or Thinglink or personality quizzes? All right. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. So the second thing that I talk about and I work on is information literacy, and that's kind of a fancy way to say we want our kids to be able to sort through and use all different kinds of information. Information literacy used to be really simple in the library. It was books and lots of different kinds of books. And researching used to be pretty simple. You'd come in and you would look in books for information you could use. But that's not really where we are anymore. So we use technology extensively when we're researching. I would guess that probably 85% of our students' information is online information. That's what they use when they're researching. And so I get kids starting in 7th grade, and it's been really gratifying over the last couple years to see going from I don't really know what you know to now my 7th graders are 9th graders, and we're having the same conversation each time we speak the same language, and we can kind of push that information a little bit farther. We're starting to be able to spiral through our research curriculum, which is great. So for 7th grade last year, and we haven't gotten to it this year, I guess. So for 7th grade last year, my purpose was to instruct on research basics. So what are reliable sources? What does the word relevance mean? Talk to them about citation basics. And so the tools that we would use, we use Google Sites. I use my Google Library site as our landing pad for any research project that we start with. Then we also use our AEA databases, especially at junior high. That's where we start because we know we don't have to worry about reliability. We can focus just on finding articles that are relevant, that actually apply to their topic. And that's enough of a chunk when you're in 7th grade to just figure that part out. That's enough. We used Socrative last year, and Socrative is a formative assessment tool, online assessment tool that I create a quiz there, and students can access it from their own device. They can access it from their phone. They can access it from a Chromebook, anything with an internet connection. And so we use that as sort of an assessment while students were working. Are you actually getting the skills that I'm asking you to get? And then we used EasyBib to do our citations. So just to show you briefly, this is just an example of what I might use for a research lesson. And so I just throw all my links on there. So if they need passwords, they have to use their school login because we don't just put our passwords online. That's not okay. If they want to go back and review the presentation, they can do that. And then different websites or databases that I want them to focus on, because we have a lot of different online resources. We've probably got 30 to 40. So that's too much to have to sort through, at least at first. So we just kind of narrow that down. And then I might give them some tips and tricks, some things that we've talked about in class, but if they need help after I leave, because I usually get to see the kids for one period, one 45-minute period, and then I'm on to the next of our 18 sections. But they'll be researching for a week or something like that. So this is helpful. Any videos I can find, and then links to citation information. Culturegrams is one of those AEA websites. I really like this. We used this for a geography project with 7th graders last year. And we actually did things a little differently. We brought all of our sections of geography at one time and researched in the auditorium. So we had 3 or 4 sections of kids in our auditorium, and I was up teaching at the front. And that was really fun. But they did a scavenger hunt in Culturegrams, and they used socrative to do that. And so if you've never had a chance to use socrative or see socrative, I can start this. Whoops. I can start this for my kids, and I can set it up so that I will ask them a question. They go and answer, spend a couple minutes, and then I can see who's responding. You know, I can see that there's 25 kids logged in, 24 of us have responded, and then I can show them the right answer. And so this is a great way for me to assess kids as we're going along. It lets me review with them. I can see who understands the concept and who doesn't, and then we can quickly talk about it that, okay, no, this isn't the right answer. Here's what you should have looked for. Let's review. How does this work? So this is a really helpful thing. And like I said, we've used it as scavenger hunts as well as just kind of a quick knowledge check. And just to kind of show you what it looks like on the teacher end, this is an example of what I used with our 7th graders when they were researching their careers. And it's only 3 questions, all right, which is, is very manageable from my end. And I was asking them for specific things. So as they were researching, if they were following the procedures I asked them to do, they should be able to answer these questions. And I tried to make it, not something that was blatantly obvious. They had to think about it a little bit as well. But Socrative is a great tool. Any of those online assessment tools I really, really like. And kids enjoy using them too. It gets them thinking a little bit. It gives them a chance to respond. They can kind of watch that counter go up as different kids respond. So that's been a really helpful thing to add to my research lessons. All right, and then EasyBib. I love EasyBib, mostly because it's free. But we would have our 7th and 8th grade go in here and manually cite their information, because that is part of the standard that they're working on. Not only do they need to research and evaluate sources, but they need to be able to create citations. So it's not enough to maybe copy and paste that citation out of a database. You need to practice actually creating it. And so we went through and worked together on where is a journal title, how do you find that? And let's put that into our EasyBib and work through all those things. Then with 9th grade, we did something similar with 9th grade. And we used Kahoot last year. Last year I got asked to do 2 different research sessions with the same group. So I got asked by science would you come in and talk to my 9th graders about research? Yes, I would love to do that. Only problem is I get like 1/3 of the 9th grade class in this group. And then I got asked by 2 of our 5 9th grade English teachers to do research. So, and like 3 weeks later. So that's a little tricky because I would have some of the kids that I just gave this information to, right? And I would have some kids that haven't heard it for 6 months. So the best way to manage that, at least it seemed like it worked pretty well, was to use Kahoot. How many of you guys have used Kahoot before? Okay. Kahoot is awesome. If you haven't used it, it's super fun. It's like Socrative, except more fun because it's really, really competitive. Just show you real quickly. So Kahoot is an online quiz. And you can see these kids are like super excited. They're waiting to see. And when they answer, they're, oh, yes. And that is how it goes every time. And I've used it with, younger kids and older kids, and they go crazy. It's a little bit more painful maybe if you're teaching using Kahoot, but the kids love it. So it's, you have your quiz up there, and then it's showing on your screen, and they're using either their phones, or they could use Chromebooks, or they could use laptops, or whatever you have. And the awesome thing is it's timed, and so kids get more points depending on how soon they answer and how correct their answer is, and the points are astronomical. So like someone will have 30,000 points. They'll have 30,000 Kahoots. So if you haven't tried that, take a look, and when you get time, maybe Google what it looks like when somebody plays Kahoot, because it is really, really fun. Another tool that we use when we're researching is, and this is super simple, but I have my kids create a research notebook, which is a fancy word for a Google Doc with a table in it. But that is really, really important, because when kids are researching, they are just all over the place. Like, oh, I found this link, this is great, and maybe they'll print it out. Some teachers want them to print so they can annotate by hand. Some teachers just want them to keep a list of links. And my biggest frustration, and I think teachers' biggest frustration, is when students think they have all the sources they need, and then they come back and they can't find the article. So I've been trying really hard to train all of our kids to make a Google Doc when they get started researching, insert a table, and whoops. Okay, so you just select the columns that you need, and then just by titling each of those, now they kind of know what they're looking at. And this has been really, really helpful. So that's something we really stress to our kids. The other thing I just did the other day, I just spent the last 3 days researching with 9th graders. And we were working on advanced searching, which is something that none of my classes had really gotten to yet. So that was exciting to teach them something a little bit different and something that they could be a little more effective with. But since it was a new skill and I only get to see them for 45 minutes, and some kids are going to be gone and some kids aren't paying attention because they have a Chromebook in front of them, all those kinds of things, I wanted to leave them with something on the website that they could use. And so I just did a screencast. And there's a lot of different ways you can screencast things. I use Screencastify because it works on a Chromebook, but there's a lot of other screencast tools. But it just leaves them with a nice little...
This is Ms. Hukvari here, talking to you a little bit about using the advanced search function in our database, as well as skimming the results that we get and determining relevance. Remember?
Okay, so it's a 6-minute mini lecture of me trying to sound really happy and very calm and not stutter a whole lot. But Screencastify is a great tool. Basically, you just, if you're using Chrome, again, I love Chrome. If you're using Chrome, you can add the extension, and then you can just grab it from your toolbar, or you can use it online. But you can record your videos directly in Chrome. It's super easy. You can do it from a webcam. You can also just do the voice. I just did the voice. I don't want them to see my face when I'm doing that. It's already weird listening to my voice. I don't need to see, me fixing my hair or whatever that is. But if I wanted to screencast something, oh, I don't know if it'll work. Anyway, I should be able to just use my extension there, and there'd be a little, oh, there it was. I've installed it, okay. When I click on that, you have to allow all those things. Okay, sorry, I forgot that this wasn't my own laptop there for a minute. No. All right, okay, pretend that all just didn't happen. We didn't do that. If you want to use Screencastify, I promise it's actually really, really simple. So that's something you can get that all set up. You start record, and you're just off and running. And then you can upload it to YouTube and edit it from there. You can share it out with your students however you choose. So that is a great resource as well. Any questions about research tools before we move on? Okay. Great. My last area that I really try to work in is in collaboration and support. So I work with 2 different staffs. I work on several different PLCs. I do PD in both buildings. And then I'm trying to look for any place where I can get in and either suggest a resource or maybe come in and do some co-teaching, or just what are the things that you need that I can help you with. And so that runs a whole gamut of activities. Maybe I'm just the extra pair of hands when a teacher is introducing a new technology tool. Maybe I'm doing direct instruction if we're talking about research. Maybe I just find an article for somebody to use and then they're off on their merry way. Any of those things and all of those things are kind of what I like to do. But this is an example of a PD session that I did about a year ago, I suppose. I had a chance to go to ITech and got some really great resources, and my junior high principal wants us to share out when we come back from ITech. You know, if you're going to go to a conference, that's perfect, but then share with everyone else so we can all benefit from what you've learned. And so what I had noticed last year when I was at ITech is a lot of the tools that I saw were presentation tools, but sort of alternative presentation tools. And so I thought this was something that our teachers would really enjoy or benefit from, and that our students would benefit from as well, because as much as I use Google Slides, and I love Google Slides, when I have to watch slide presentations from 90 kids in a day, it gets kind of tedious, right? So I wanted to kind of talk with them about some other things that they could use. So here are just a few examples of some tools. This right here is the presentation that I used. I managed not to use Google Slides to present about not using Google Slides. I used Google Draw for that. And Google Draw is a fun tool to use. It's pretty easy, and it would be a great tie-in, maybe not as much in ELA, but if you're in math and science, because you have all those shapes that you could be using. If you're working on geometry, you could have kids make their own manipulatives. But there would be a lot of applications for us as well there. Thinglink was one of the tools that I used in this presentation as well. And it was really fun because I presented in PD on a Wednesday, and I had a music teacher email me like 2 days later that he was using it for a class that he was taking, and I had someone else take it and use it with their students the next day. So it's really fun when you not only introduce something, but then you know it's being used. This tool is this is one I haven't used myself. I just think it's really fascinating because I love infographics. Infographics and posters, student presenting this way is kind of the new thing. When I did my master's degree, I didn't have to do a thesis, so don't hate me if you did a master's and you had to do a thesis. I did a poster presentation, and that's what we do now. And it sounds like, oh, that's super easy, it's arts and crafts, but it's really hard to do. I don't know if any of you have ever had to do that, but to condense a 20-page paper into one slide and communicate a lot of that in an efficient way is really hard. So I think it's really interesting if we can kind of get our kids to be doing those sorts of things. So Easily is a way that you can do that. You can create your own. You can also browse through all of the ones that they have. I kind of like this one. And some of them are humorous and some of them actually mean something. But it's sort of taking all those draw tools, circles, arrows, different text, so nice little flow chart. Which phone do you have? Android. Do you like it? Yes. Are you serious? I love that. Okay, so all kinds of fun things like that. But what this would force our kids to do, or hopefully get our kids to do, is to think about, what is it that I know? What is it that I want other people to know? And then how do I represent that in a graphic way? And, not just putting a bunch of text on a slide, because that's really easy to do, and that helps us organize our thoughts, and that gives us organized presentations, but that isn't really creating anything new. So Easily is a tool that, like I said, I haven't used it a whole lot, but I would like to use more. Canva is a great place to go to make posters. All right, what was the thing? Okay, so if you want kids to make a poster instead of having them sit down with pen and paper, maybe have them come out to Canva. There we go. Awesome. Okay, but here's just kind of an example of what Canva looks like. It is a really cool looking format, and the kinds of stuff you can design on that is just really professional looking, and it doesn't take a whole lot. And there are clip art items that kids can use. There are also things for purchase in that, but they wouldn't need to do that. It's another free tool. Very easily, very quickly, they could put something very professional together to, again, instead of giving a presentation about what they know, maybe they could put all of that on a poster and then talk from that poster. Or you can have your kids all make posters and they all kind of walk around the room and look at them, and it's sort of an information exchange that way. Smore is another one that I like. Oh, that was supposed to be my funny one that I did. There we go. This is one that I made. And this took me maybe 7 minutes, I think, to make this. And this is kind of a tongue-in-cheek sort of thing. But you know, if I wanted kids to see a flyer about different Halloween books or suspenseful books, we would put in there terrifying books. Maybe I put in these 2 mysteries, and then because I'm a little bit sarcastic, I put in the Notebook as well. And you can add videos to it. So there's my clip of the Frankenstein movie, and you could set this up as a blog. You could use this for your blog and have kids comment on that. So that's another great tool. And then I also did not just tools that would give us presentations, but maybe some alternate ways to use Google Slides, because it is good for some other things besides just that. And so just a couple ideas to kind of throw out there, and maybe things that you could take back and even use tomorrow. But if you are doing Jigsaw with your kids, you want kids to be taking notes on a whole bunch of information instead of everyone taking their notes. You kind of divide and conquer. And if that's in Google Slides, everyone can see that and they can work together. And then everyone ends up with the full set of notes that they need. This is another great way. I talked about using Google Docs as a research tool, but you could also use Google Slides and use that as your note cards, and that would be a great tool as well. And then you can also do photo editing in Google Slides. So there's a lot more functionality than what we kind of normally go to. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. All right, so I just wanted to say, again, thank you very much for letting me come and talk with you. I hope that maybe I gave you some tools to kind of consider. Some things to maybe think about, and I think we're all guilty of this sometimes, but when we're trying to use technology and we're excited about a new tool, sometimes we try to put the tool first and then fit the lesson around that. That's not going to work all that well. But if we start with what we want our students to know in mind and then add our technology, that will work much better. This is probably not just for me, but I certainly want my teachers to come to me, but I'm sure all of your teacher librarians would want you to come to them as well. And if you're in a school that already is using instructional coaches and model teachers, they're also great resources. If you have a tech integrationist on staff, any of those people are going to be available for ideas and also support. Support's really important when you first start rolling something out. When I started this job, technology, well, maybe not when I started this job, but when I started my librarian program, I was comfortable with technology, but I certainly never really thought I would be at a conference talking to people about how to use technology and how I use technology. So, you know, if that's something, as you get started, it's a little bit uncomfortable, but really, once you kind of get used to it, you just kind of get in that flow, and it's really fun to try those new things. So if I can do it, you can do it too. All right, thank you very much.
If there are any questions at this time for Michelle, I can pass the mic to you. This side of the room.
Some of these accounts, like, I'm sorry. Thank you. Like the Canva app and a couple of the other ones, do the kids all need accounts for every one of these?
That is a great question because I haven't actually used it myself. Teachers would have a login, and I guess it would depend on how you would want to do that. If you would just want them to, they could log in with their school account. They could do that because there's always a login with Google option. And then it would also depend a little bit, I suppose, on how old they are, because we run into that, you know, you're not 14 yet. But there's usually a workaround for that, right?
Any other questions?